Today, new studio, who dis? This is ChillPoint. Hey everybody, we have internet, and
Spoilers?
we have
This is not pre-recorded, unlike the stream we did last night.
yeah. Now, if you saw the Oki Oki Fight Club that we just did, that
Transpired
Ben and-
for us.
Ben and Adam just did, we also have a different mic setup in here. However, that mic setup is optimized for 2 people, which is the standard maximum number, assuming we aren't doing like a CTS or something.
Yeah.
Or ChillPoint, which, by the way, we will endeavor to be going back into Studio B for ChillPoint in the future. If you remember, we had we had some internet issues in Studio B in the old Moonbase that were unrelated to, TELUS or whatever. That was actually the computer, which we have moved and plugged in Studio B. So that problem probably hasn't been solved by the move. So we'll have to deal with that separately. But here, maybe I can move this forward a little bit. That might help a little bit.
Might help.
But then more people are off access, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
fine.
Alright, we'll be loud.
It's partially just like we still need to get maybe a little bit more sound dampening in this room for this mic.
So let's talk about what the show is. The show is ChillPoint. It's a show where we talk about all the week's video game news. Well, all the week's video game news that we choose to talk about, which I guess is sort of a tautology, but there it is. And we also talk about the episode of Checkpoint that went up yesterday, when there is an episode, which there was this week. And it was a good one, I think.
And sometimes we just derail everything.
That's true.
Generally at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because it's fun, but sometimes in the middle. BG, you like to sporadically do a little twist and turn in the middle of the show sometimes.
We'll go tangential.
Yeah.
I'm very much in love with doing that. We'll see what happens today.
So, let's talk. I guess I don't actually need my headphones on for this. Let's talk about the stories that were on Checkpoint. Starting with, so for some reason, this episode of Checkpoint had like a lot of Sega stories, which seemed kind of weirdly unnecessary.
Well,
but
it's really not about Sonic.
yeah, a lot of Sega stories and none of them about Sonic.
Yeah.
And
They wanted to make the news, and boy, they did.
which I realized I actually jumped ahead, but that's fine. Let's talk about Sega.
Sure.
Because in good news, the workers at Sega of America have voted to form a union.
Yeah. That's
Out of-
cool.
Yay!
Out of over 200 people eligible to vote to do it, 139 took part in the vote, and over 80% voted to form a union. And now that has to go get certified, because the NLRB was overseeing the election, is
Right.
my understanding. But now the NLRB has to certify the votes to make sure that that Sega doesn't get to say, hey, wait, that was like weird and wrong and whatever, and we're not going to acknowledge it, right?
Yeah.
So once they certify the votes, they'll be like, oh shit, I guess we can't get out of it.
That's part of procedure in these kinds of things. right?
Exactly, yeah. You want to be you want to be ultra certain so that the company can't come back to you and say, well, we don't know if it was actually legit, and it's like it was actually legit.
Now,
So
the name of their union is
Allied Employees, Allied Employee Guild. I don't know, in strength. It spells Aegis, Aegis.
yes,
Yeah.
which is clearly a reference to Hades.
Yes.
Clearly, I
It's
have
one of the weapons,
to say,
by which I mean it's a shield.
Improving Sega, that's what it was.
right.
Allied Employees Guild Improving Sega.
I will say, let me show off here. This is their logo. I find the hand on the logo to be kind of weirdly. Maybe it's because it has 4 fingers. And
And actually,
like
you can see Sonic's hand instead, I guess. Like,
because Sonic has 3 fingers,
It's got
right?
a very gloved look.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it kind of invokes the idea that it's Sonic's hand. But yeah, I think
Sonic does have 4.
pretty sure he's got a
maybe-
very normal hand.
you know what? We've never really done a good
Like
research
if
on
you
that.
look at this picture here,
Let's bring up some other
of
ones.
him in the side, that looks like 4 fingers.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know.
So,
Yeah, actually, right here on
Yeah.
the statue,
He totally has 4. Yeah,
except
you're right.
that
You're
except
right.
that maybe some incarnations of Sonic might only have 3. Like there's a cartoon one below there. Does he have 4? It looks like he might only have 3 in that
maybe
picture.
3. It's hard to tell.
Right? So it's like, okay, that...
No, he's got the
No,
full.
that's
4 there, okay.
That's 4.
Which is actually kind of unique for cartoons, actually. Now that I think
I
about
think
it.
we're just used to the cartoon.
Yeah.
Not having.
Yeah, maybe I'm just used to like drawn hands, not having the right number of fingers.
Yeah.
Too much AI stuff.
I
I've
mean,
been
really,
looking at,
when you
maybe.
think about it, your hand sometimes just feels like it has too many fingers, right?
Yeah.
No,
Only needs-
no. It does, my hand feels completely fine. I've had them since birth.
But it only needs 1.
You just want a lobster claw.
Did you hate it when you wake
What's
up?
wrong with a lobster claw?
You wake up and you have like a second thumb on the other side.
It's like, oh, well, that's actually more convenient. Excellent.
I got a pinky for my mug shelf. I don't need a.
You don't need an actual whole
I don't
thumb.
need a thumb for that.
Sounds like it might be good. Kinda like it.
And so what I liked about this story is, and Beach talked about it in the episode, is that people forming a union, great, not funny.
Yes.
But what is funny
Mm-hmm.
is Sega. I mean,
Sega management has to put out some sort of acknowledgement
and
that this happened.
yeah, and we get this a lot. This particular line
Mm-hmm.
comes up a lot, where when unions are a thing, where especially once they've lost,
Yes.
like once the union has gone through the vote, there'll be the big thing being like, we like to have a personal relationship with our employees
Directly with
directly, and it's sad that now
Somebody
there's
has
gonna
to come in between us.
now it's we can't have that real hands-on kind of personal relationship with the
It's very
employees.
like, how dare I have to have marriage counseling?
And it,
Yeah.
Kind of feel.
and it's like you wanted the one-on-one relationship because that would put you into a position of power.
Yeah.
And made it so that you could
Kind of do whatever you
Yeah.
want.
you do whatever you want, give people different salaries
Yeah.
depending on what was going on.
There's no shame in admitting that, by the way. If you just come out and say it, it's like
Yeah.
we liked having a direct relationship because it meant that we could pay people whatever we thought we could negotiate out of them. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. I get your position, but your employees are saying actually we would prefer to try to treat everybody a little more fairly because it feels like we don't have any power
I mean,
when it
it's
comes to
very-
this kind of thing.
The response is very media speak, right? It's
Yeah.
we support them. Thing happened.
And oh, by the
we
way,
absolutely respect everybody we talk
Yeah.
to.
Because-
everything we did was completely legal during the process.
Yeah, and because we're such a upstanding corporate citizen, we will do the things that we're legally required to do.
Yeah.
Like they make it sound like they're being all nice, but it's like, respecting your employees' rights and maintaining your legal commitment to the NLRB process is what you have to do. That's
kind of the
you
rule.
you get in deep trouble if you don't do that.
I was the other I was positing what they could have done instead, which would have come off a lot better, which would have been a completely non-story from a point of view of making fun of Sega, is that they could have been like, our employees have voted. They have passed the ability to they've passed a resolution to create a union. They'll be talking with CWA in order to be doing that. We look forward to we look forward to seeing like the rest of the process or whatever, and we look forward to engaging with the union on the things that they want to do. You can be very dry speak about it, but you can say that it's like, this is a new chapter in what goes on at Sega of America. We obviously will be different than what we've seen before, but we are confident that we will still be able to reach agreements with the union when it comes about.
But like they had to put that little dig in there. Like we believe a direct relationship is it. We believe in a direct relationship, but
Yeah, and the
like
part,
they just couldn't resist.
the part where they say we have provided factual information and answered your questions regarding what changes with the union, and I was like, but it's obviously it's going to be from your perspective.
Shouldn't we get some credit for not lying to
Right,
people?
and I'm like, but also, really? Because there's been a lot of companies who have said, oh no, we've done everything completely above board and factually, and you look at what they've been doing to their employees in other companies, and it's like, they never do. They never give them the full picture. They give them the slice they want them to see, which is, your...
I mean, that's how PR works.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can give you can give factual information
With a bit of spin.
without actually having it be useful information or
Yeah.
whatever.
It's very.
Go ahead.
It's very. I think you're wrong, but I respect your choices.
I was really just happy
Because we're legally obligated to respect your choices.
Yeah. Getting the dig in at the end, that was that Sega Sammy paid Sega of Japan employees a 30% raise back in February, and none of the American employees apparently got anything.
Yeah, wow. Is
Yeah.
that so?
No.
That's happened like a few times with Nintendo's done.
Oh, yeah.
similar things and stuff.
Yeah,
There's, I guess maybe that's just a slightly different.
If I'm recalling correctly, at least within the last year, a lot of people within Japan were getting a bump in their raises for a lot of tech companies,
Yes.
especially due to the market or something. Like they wanted to retain people or something,
Yeah.
and that's why they did that there. And like a lot of places did that there, not just Sega.
Yeah.
None of them did anything to any of their other counterparts, not within North America or Europe or any other places they have offices.
And the thing is that when it was originally put out, like when you go look at the PDF that actually just that Paul was quoting the thing from, that PDF, when you read it, it definitely makes it sound like all workers are getting this 30% upgrade, unless you're coming fresh from university, in which you're getting a 35% boost, right? Which I was like, that's pretty cool. Because it's like, we want you to get started on the right foot kind of idea. But it's not, when you read it, it feels like all Sega employees, the entire company. Except that's not really
It's all
what's going on.
Sega Sammy employees.
It's all the employees that work for specific chunks of Sega Sammy, even that.
Right,
Not
right.
every employee at Sega Sammy, like in all of the little things they have underneath. Just the certain, and I don't even think it's maybe not just Sega Corporation, because I think Atlas Corporation occupies their own thing within Sega Sammy as well, and I don't know if they were getting raises or not.
Yeah, you write it in such a way that sounds
Sounds
true.
expansive.
It's true.
Yeah.
But it feels like it leads people to infer specific things.
Yeah, that you're thinking that all that even like the Sega of America, Sega of Europe, like whomever, and the same thing I'm sure, like I haven't followed up on this, but Nintendo, when they did the big
They
bump,
did it as well.
yeah, and they only did Nintendo Japan or Nintendo Co. Limited. They didn't do Nintendo of America or Nintendo of Europe or anybody
Yeah,
else.
and I never read into whether or not they did just specific parts in there, just that it was happening only in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, probably the answer to that is that they could get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, part of it too is it is likely that every single region is set up for them to handle their own thing.
Their own payroll.
Right, they're almost independent companies.
Yeah.
But also, it was actually like only a couple of months ago that I actually sort of made the connect or figured out because you in various articles and things you see Sega Sammy, and it's always like, that's a weird, why is it called that? Is that a different company than Sega? It's like Sega
Sammy Holdings, yeah.
Sega Sammy, but that's the sort of parent Sega. Anyway, other Sega thing, just to stay on the Sega saga, is NFTs. Man, it was like 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months almost.
So good, wasn't
That
it?
we went without talking about NFTs.
We're doing good with it.
And this wonderful like back and forth. We were talking after the recording that like I visualize the Sega CEOs as like maybe like the Fates from like the sort of three people, and they like each say a word from the sentence, or possibly
Whose line is it anyway? All in one the
the three-headed Broadway star, whatever, or the in Magic the Selesnya Guild Master is like three dryads that are like joined together. Anyway, I imagine there'd be some sort of Cerberus three-headed CEO. Because it's all I love because especially in this article, it's all credited to like a Sega CEO, and a couple of points are like we're not actually sure which one of them said this.
Yeah, it's so like
the Sega CEO hive mind.
We've had so many different C-suite executives from all the different Sega companies.
And there's like co-CEOs as well.
Yeah, it's like co-COOs and stuff.
It's not uncommon for us to see interviews with people who are like devs or directors who are like, no, of course we're not going to do that, and then like a couple of days later, another article pop up that's like they're totally doing that, but it's like you know that someone above them probably gave the decision, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that I normally see. One CEO says this, another one said this one.
Yeah.
This one said this. And it's like,
I wonder, I don't know, maybe there is like internal factional arguments within Sega.
Office politics, right?
But whatever the case is, they were like, we're going to do NFTs, and they're like, well, we're not going to do NFTs if people don't like them.
Yeah.
If
it's just money making.
And then everyone is like, we don't like them. And they're like, well, it's kind of unclear still.
Yeah, it's like, we made this cool trademark. Do you like them now? It's like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
It's not even that cool.
We're still going through a time where it's like, NFTs aren't like the hot topic button now, because right now it's AI.
Right.
But some of those companies will have started implementing that stuff, and they can't just necessarily pull it out. And that some of those people within those companies are into NFTs, and the only way to make the grift work is if you get other people into it.
Yes.
So we're still going to have a little bit of that tug of war.
Is one of the Sega CEOs an AI?
Yeah.
Which one?
What feels clear to me from it is
would
that...
it be bad if we replaced our CEOs with AIs instead of our background actors?
What's been clear to me from what I've been seeing, though, if you tear apart everything that I did, by and large, I was always quoting, here's somebody saying, we don't want to do this if it turns out to be a bad idea. We don't want to do this because there are negative elements we have to mitigate. We don't want to do this if it just means it's making money. We don't want to do this because what's the point if the games aren't fun? And I'm like, every time it's been a negative, it's been somebody saying the negative. But every time it's been no, we're positive NFTs, it's somebody doing the positive. And I'm like, your words aren't matching your actions. Everyone keeps coming out and saying, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then you immediately follow it like a week later, or like a month later, a week later, 3 days later, you followed up with the thing being like, oh, but by the way, we are actually actively doing this thing now.
Are they talking to different people when they do this? Like, are they being, no, of course we're not going to say press, and then, oh, of course we're doing it to investors?
You would assume
because
so,
investor speak is always quite different.
But that was an investor call, like the first one that happened back in 2021, where the CFO, the CEO, and the COO from Sega Corporation. That was an actual investor call where they're saying, if we were to do this, we have to mitigate the negative elements, and if it is possible, or if it's just perceived, I'm guessing by anybody, it's just perceived as simple money making. We would like to make a decision not to proceed. And I'm like, you are the three in charge. I would like you to make the decision too. Like, you get to just do that. And yeah, it's every part of the action has not reflected what they've been saying, where it's like, we want to be careful, we want to do whatever. It's like, and I kind of get, you could also make the argument from business perspective, being like, well, we're not making the game, but we are just going to license something to somebody else to make a game, and if it works, then hey, then that's our tentative step, right? It's like we didn't make a new TV show. We just let somebody else make that new TV show, right. But we still make money off of it.
Yeah.
I want it to be like, we're not interested in doing NFTs, if it's just for money. And then there's like, sorry, that was a mistranslation. We are interested in NFTs just for money.
Yeah. Holy crap.
So yeah, and then the fun part about this is that they haven't actually, they've said, they say a immensely popular franchise.
Yeah, they don't say which one.
That they don't say what it is. And everyone's like Sega doesn't have that many immensely popular franchises.
No, they have a lot of franchises.
Depending on what you're defining as immensely popular,
well, depending
of course.
on if you're defining it as specifically a Sega property and not like one of the other companies they own.
Yeah, like I went through the list of what some Sega properties that have kind of been things that people remember, and it's like, okay, well, obviously you got Sonic, and you got Wonder Boy, which has kind of always been associated with Sega, even though it's spread across multiple platforms. And because that's not even a Sega thing, that's Westone. It doesn't matter.
I mean, I wouldn't say Wonder Boy is like a super hot property at the moment.
No, it isn't. But I mean, because the Metroidvania thing is kind of resurgence of interest. But regardless, Super Hang-On, Outrun, Space Harrier, Afterburner, like all old Sega Master System games, Phantasy Star, like stuff like that, where it's like, you say those things, you're like, right, because they made a version of that, then they made a better version of that, and then they made one more version of that in the arcades or something, and that established a franchise. But they also occupy some space in the heads of 40-year-old dudes who remember playing those games, right? So it's like, okay, that's a franchise, technically. But is it enough that you're gonna say we sold Afterburner or licensed Afterburner to this company to make a Web3 blockchain game is that going to be, is that what's immensely popular, or?
I mean, somebody mentioned Evil Badman on the, I'm sorry if you're a fan of the series, but I could see Phantasy Star Online.
Yeah.
It's the only one I could see out of the one you listed. It
feels like it fits into the, it feels like it could be adapted into the sort of NFT play to earn mode.
Yeah.
Better than most of their other ones.
That you could definitely be like, I buy my wolf enhanced sword.
I hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Also, I was incredibly proud. I was looking for a way to end this story off, and I was very, very proud of how I ended it, which was taking the old "to be this good takes ages, to be this good takes Sega" tagline that was very popular in Europe, but not anywhere else really.
I didn't actually know. I hadn't actually heard that as a Sega tagline.
I had heard it before, recently, like the last few years. I'd never heard it before, like when I was growing up. But I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to use this. This is great. That'll hand them their ass. Boy, I showed them.
I honestly think we should be exploring more things that happened in Europe that we're not familiar with, because we have a very nice contingent of European fans.
It's true.
They're up at the same time that I am.
Nice. In some other non-Sega news, there's this little update on the Microsoft FTC thing with the apparent victory for Microsoft, in the sense that the court has ruled against the interim injunction for the FTC.
Now they can appeal.
They can appeal.
They think they're trying to do.
So it's because legal systems are weird.
Yeah.
The FTC's challenge, from what I understand, the FTC's challenge is actually still in play.
Right.
It's just the injunction that was going to, because the problem is the whole problem was that the sale, the deadline on the sale was like August.
Right.
And so, and if the sale didn't go through, there was a penalty in the contract of like $3 billion or something.
Yeah, and they wanted to be able to argue with, because I think their court date was after.
Right.
For the actual argument.
Yeah.
So then, so theoretically though, this was to try to block that. Which, and interestingly, in the court documents, there's some aspects of where the judge criticized the FTC for possibly acting in bad faith,
right,
in the sense of trying to delay things such that they would be
they'd have to
they would interfere with this penalty and kind of scupper the deal without having to actually litigate it.
Yeah.
And so the judge did not look fondly upon that.
No.
And
my understanding is the appeal did happen and was denied, or like today or something, or maybe late last night or something like that.
Which is
the court date is actually like their deal is actually July 18th.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so it was real close.
The court date in which they actually had was in August.
Yeah.
Right, that's what it was.
And that's, I mean, I can see why you would try to do that, because if you can basically say, if we can cause this to be unpalatable to the parties involved, because there'll be a penalty that has to be paid or something along that.
Yeah.
How that thing. If we can cause it to be unpalatable to the parties involved, then they will voluntarily want to not do this.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the thing, but the way that the FTC's argument was largely focused around Sony, basically.
Well, I mean, they didn't count Nintendo, so they couldn't talk about that.
Yeah.
But it was also like they didn't focus. They were focused on the damage that this would do to Sony as opposed to consumers.
Yes.
Which again, they got kind of they got kind of knocked down by the judge on that one, and that's fair. Like that was not a great look.
I mean, I did see a lot of criticism of the FTC not presenting a great court case, and in fact the judge asking better questions on their behalf a number of times,
and like a couple of
stuff like that.
Some of the FTC experts did not give the kind of argument that the FTC probably wanted. Like, didn't their evidence ended up being kind of positive for Microsoft. So yeah, they may have, and then this idea that like Call of Duty, and again, this constant focus on Call of Duty, which is probably, could be the influence of Sony on the whole thing.
Right.
The rather than the larger idea of the fourth and sixth largest video game company in the world by revenue.
Yeah.
Merging as like a corporate, like not even just like as a corporate thing.
Yeah.
With all the questions that entails, as opposed to just like, oh no, this is going to be this one game.
Yeah, I still feel like the ploy there is, if we focus on this one thing, it's the thing we think everybody's actually heard of. Then there'll be like rallying cries for it, and it's just like it just ends up being a bad play. And because they were focusing on that one thing, the judge was like, and Microsoft made the argument, which was actually a pretty good argument, being right now Call of Duty is available on these platforms.
Yeah.
When we get it, Call of Duty is going to be available on more platforms.
Yeah.
Which, in that one tiny area, does indeed, benefit consumers.
Yeah, by giving them that level of choice.
In the same way that if, Netflix owned everything, it would be convenient for consumers.
It sure would.
Because everything would be on Netflix.
That was the golden age of streaming, right?
There would be other problems. But in that one narrow area, they can say this will be a benefit to consumers, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is there's still one holdout, and that's the UK.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're looking at selling off parts of their cloud streaming to mitigate that, aren't they?
Well, or
it's like that's the rumor or the talk.
What's interesting is that the UK was blocking it, and Microsoft was like suing to, basically doing the same thing, suing in order to get past this block.
The Competition and Markets Authority, yeah.
And the competition, and now that the FTC has sort of their case has dropped out, and I believe the EU has also approved them.
Yeah.
So the Competition Markets Authority is the only thing that's left. They've actually dropped their lawsuit in the UK, saying that rather than litigate this, we want to go back to the negotiating table. Now, the fact that the other two big consumer advocacy places have okayed it means that they're coming to the table probably in a pretty strong position here. Probably stronger than previously they were.
Yeah.
So it's in their best interest to be renegotiating at this point. But we talked about this on ChillPoint a couple months ago when the CMA first blocked this thing, is that we were impressed that the CMA didn't care about Call of Duty.
Yeah.
They were looking at other stuff like the cloud things and different things like that. And so we'll see what they come up with, but that was kind of an interesting aspect of it.
That does also make sense, though, that Microsoft's saying we want to go back to the negotiating table rather than just straight up sue you, because it's like, oh shit, your complaints are way more comprehensive than the FTC's complaints were.
And our solution that we've already got doesn't work on these guys.
Yeah, we need to come up with something that actually makes better sense. So, okay, we'll sit down and talk to you for real. And we'll see what happens, because I have every confidence that we're going to see another lawsuit from Microsoft over to the CMA over this. It's just drawing it out more, so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, because if the deal's supposed to go through, Tuesday or something, and then we get to a court thing in August, probably by the time we hit, the Video Game Awards.
Yeah.
This will all cleared out.
And
we'll see. For all the gaming news to go away.
Yeah.
And only be about which game was the best.
And of course, there's the question, now that the UK is sort of out on their own, whether they have whether they're at the point where, if we're talking, we're talking whatever, $69, $64, $65 billion. If Microsoft just okay, we just won't sell it there. We just won't make cloud services available in the UK.
Depending. It could go further than that, too, potentially, if the CMA really wanted to make a stink about it, to be like, letting if you guys merge everywhere else in the world, you're still doing business as the same thing together. So we're actually going to prevent you from doing things here.
Seems unlikely, but depends on how spiteful do you think the United Kingdom is when it comes to trade agreements with other gigantic goddamn entities? They definitely have a track record for being very, 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 very reasonable. Outlook unclear. Check back next week.
What's the annual revenue, the net revenue of, or even gross revenue of the combined Microsoft, EA, or Activision, Blizzard, King?
It's roughly 16 billion, I think. That's all aspects of every company.
I was thinking versus the GDP of the UK.
Yeah. But because if it's greater than 1%, that's a fairly major impact on total worldwide kind of clout, right? If it's they're good for $160 billion, it's okay, fine. That's that. It's can you lose Microsoft? It's I don't know. Can you lose all of Microsoft? Can you lose access to Azure? Can you lose access to Windows and Office? maybe they could say we're not selling you guys contracts anymore. Get fucked. You know, like it's
sure.
How petty does Microsoft want to be?
I mean, sure, but you're speaking in a lot of like what ifs when we'll find out in like literally 2 months.
It's true, yeah.
And while I enjoy engaging in speculation,
yes,
the what if speculation you're engaging in is just like, well, what if they do this? And it's like, well, then they did that.
Then they did that, yeah.
So it's not.
It's not helpful.
It's not helpful.
No.
Speaking of something else that isn't helpful.
Oh no.
The
ESA?
the ESA when they're talking about video game preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's actually Yahtzee did a great rundown, or not actually. He didn't actually mention this story, but I'm sure it was inspired. The topic was probably inspired by this story.
Right.
On his extra punctuation show that he does, where he was talking about this idea of ownership of games, right? That you, and which is obviously very closely tied to the archiving thing, because when games are either online only or require a server to run, then you don't your ownership of it is dependent on that server being available.
Yeah.
And then so the archiving of it is dependent on that server. And one of the things that Yahtzee talked about was that this idea that games are being remastered or even just released on different emulation services.
Yeah.
Like
good old games or on NSO or on something like that.
Yeah, whether different things. But he's saying like only the good ones are.
Well, okay, I could take issue with that, but I want to hear the whole thing.
Generally, the good ones are the ones that are being released on there, or the ones that at least people have nostalgia for.
Yes.
The ones that they think there's a market for.
The things that will get people to subscribe and make
trust me when I say that if you give me 3 minutes to look at the NSO lineup, I can give you 25 examples of games that are not fucking good. But
they're games that Nintendo thought people might want.
I don't. Okay, I want to address that, but that's not related.
No, we'll get very pedantic for that.
But anyway, but the idea, and what he was talking about was this idea that failures in terms of any kind of art, or technology, are often more interesting and more useful to archive than the good ones, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in the sort of, if you don't remember history, you're doomed to repeat it kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that seeing sort of warts and all versions of what was popular, or even what was unpopular, or what was being produced at a certain time, is valuable from a historical standpoint.
Yeah.
But also from a learning perspective and developer perspective. Go,
right.
They try. This is something that was tried to be done. It failed, but now maybe we could look at that. We have new technology now. We have new methods now.
The steps of refinement on the thing can be very useful. Like I do this with crafting all the time. When you see a person's first attempt at something versus their second attempt, and how they've improved technique and whatnot. Right,
and the thing with you're saying the big thing with re-releases, especially if they are not just not just remasters, but actually like a remake in a new engine with new graphics and quality of life improvements and all this stuff.
Yeah,
is that version? It's almost the opposite. He's saying it's almost the opposite of archival, because now that version has actually replaced. Like if you go to get Resident Evil 4,
yes,
the version you get is going to be the one that was just released.
Yeah, you get the remake.
You can't get or it's a lot harder to get the original one.
Yeah,
and to see because they fixed a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
but they also changed a lot of stuff.
And at least when it's when it was available as a physical product, you're like, okay, well, somebody has a copy of Metroid Prime for GameCube on their shelf somewhere. Mm-hmm. But what if the game that was available was a digital product only? What if it's something that only was playable on a certain, like on the DSi through DSiWare or something? It's like, well, I can't get that anywhere. Like it's not. I have to buy a whole new DSi, but even then, it's like I have to buy one that already has it installed. Like, well, Flappy Bird is the prime example, right? It's like, or PT, the demo. It's like another prime example. It's like the only way you could get those things after that stuff got yanked was you had to go buy someone's like PS4 that had it, or PS3 or whatever that had it on there. That's how then they became valuable for a brief period of time on the internet. But it's like, that's so ridiculous that that's the bar in some of those cases.
And the idea that, as the ESA states, the idea that the video game companies themselves should be the ones that are sort of have authority for that preservation effort is clearly not the. No. I mean, clearly that's not the way to go.
Part of this also too is it's like if you think about like, well, we wanted to know how Romans lived in X time, and the that idea of like, well, where are we going to find the best examples of how a Roman person would have lived? Well, we have all these texts that are available. Oh yeah, well, who wrote the texts? Well, the rich people,
the scholars,
scholars and rich people who could afford scribes and stuff like that.
Who won the wars?
Yeah, all their lives and stuff are all documented on these things, way more than just a random dude whose job was to clean up the shitter, right? Like it's like.
But then but it's always like when they find the like diary of the guy cleaning out the privy.
Yeah.
Like that's the really valuable thing.
Exactly.
You get to see what the like day-to-day life is.
Yeah, it's like when they start digging through what happened at Pompeii, and they're like, oh my god, like they had takeout restaurants, and look at how beautifully they were decorated, and look at all the stuff that was going on. Look at the graffiti that was in, like, people did graffiti back in the day, and it's like, yes, we happen to have something preserved that told us more about daily life all of a sudden, and that's more interesting to scholars because like that gives us a wider view of not just the people who are rich enough to preserve the shit, but the people who weren't rich enough but we managed to preserve it anyway.
Do you know what does that for video games? Not in the sense of like you're going to get to look at its code and see how the game actually runs.
Are you going to say my backlog?
No, I'm going to say streamer VODs.
Yes! That's great!
I know your backlog, but like if you look at like, because a streamer who's doing a VOD, they're doing a playthrough, which isn't quite the same as playing the game yourself, true. But because they're reacting to it, you get a little bit more context of that time period.
Yeah, of what was an amazing thing.
Oh, this thing happened in 2012. Now I have to think about all the other things that happened in 2012.
Yeah, because
it's certainly a helpful resource, I would say. Yeah,
filming my reaction to what was going on in Tears of the Kingdom, then knowing that it's like, well, he never played Elden Ring, he never played these other 5 games, he never played Deus Ex, he never played all this other shit. It's kind of like, oh, okay, well, from the point of view of somebody who did not experience these things, that's why we're seeing that reaction as well, right? Knowing things about the people who are involved.
Watching a streamer who plays the game when it first comes out, and then watching maybe even that same streamer replay that game 5 years from then.
Yeah, you could definitely do some analysis.
Do some interesting culture and stuff that way.
Yeah, so the ESA president, was it? Philip Lewis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Stanley Philip Lewis, a president and CEO, is like, don't leave it to the Library of Congress, leave it to the publishers to figure out. It's like, that's a dead end.
And it's like, you think about like book publishers, right? Like, there's new books that are published, and there's very popular books that get reprints.
Yes.
But the idea that the publisher is the one, nobody thinks that the publisher should be the one responsible for archiving all of their old manuscripts and books and things.
Exactly.
That's left to other entities.
Yeah.
And the idea that would be that's now the response that video game companies should be responsible or are responsible for that. And have been sort of fighting the various people who have been trying to open things up. That 20 years on, we can put the game in the Library of Congress or whatever, and it's okay. You're not going to be losing any money on this.
Yeah.
Well, because we do a lot of gaming's only 60 years old?
I mean, how far back do we want to go? I think that's probably good. Let's just say that. Yes.
Around 60, maybe further.
Sure.
And we have a market of, or at least a lot of companies that, again, either use their old material for streaming services, or they repackage it, or they remaster it, or if you're Square, you make a whole new game and you call it Final Fantasy VII again.
Yeah.
And like, as long as they feel like they can make money off of that property at any point, even if it's a property they're not currently making money off of.
Yeah.
Because if they put it in an archival thing and then suddenly it becomes very popular and they're like, well, I could have sold that, I think is the fear.
Yeah. Why wasn't I selling it? And yet and then on the other hand, I will make an argument that Nintendo Switch Online is doing an amazing job of letting people experience terrible fucking games for the NES and the Super Nintendo, as opposed to putting really good stuff in there. And I know that there's a thing, because tell me what you really wanted to do with your day was go through the back catalog of Jalico and Data East. You know, it's like, but you know what I really have a hankering for? Not to play Mario 3, but Eliminator Boat Duel by Electro Brain or Electro Dream. It's one of the two companies.
There's got to be at least 10 people.
Presumably there's some sort of system to decide.
I know what that system is. It's, can we get it for cheap because nobody gives a shit? That's really what it seems like, because a lot of the stuff, I'm like, most of these games that have been showing up on NSO are not games that came to it when you had to pay for the games on the Virtual Console. Most of those games didn't come there. A lot of the games that are on Virtual Console are things like Castlevania, Mega Man, Gradius, like a lot of like NES classics that were like big deals. And why was that? Because almost certainly the original publishers or developers were getting a cut. And at this point, Konami, kind of, but Capcom and like all the major companies have realized, oh shit, people like these games. I'm not selling them to Nintendo to put on NSO and getting 30 cents on the thing. I'll make my own collection, sell it for $50.
Arcade collection,
yeah,
which is basically just a storefront for them to add other things.
Essentially,
and we're stuck in the streaming thing again.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just what happens now.
It's interesting for me to see people freak out every time an online store goes offline, because it's not like it's the first time it's happened.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to see the streaming services in terms of like Netflix or Hulu or whatever that had their own content that was perfectly fine. That doesn't seem like it should have any reason to actually be pulled down.
Yes.
And then they pull it down.
Yeah, it was one thing when when everyone was like, oh, stupid, all these stupid licensing agreements. They must, I'm sure it's very complicated, but there's, I guess that all these, you're more mad at like the companies that own the license as opposed to
Disney taking all the Marvel stuff off of Netflix.
Sure.
But then we got to the point where
Willow came down after like 6 months.
Yeah. We get to but then it's like, well, the nice thing about so all these and there was this thing where it was like all these companies, they're making originals so that they have control of it and they won't have to get rid of it. Turns out that there's a new plan that they're pulling things after. Yeah. Anyway.
Not that I think NSO is a bad service or that the emulation stuff is a bad thing, but there's just a lot of like trash titles, that stuff that when I was renting games back in the day, you walk in and you go along the thing and it's like, maybe I'll try that, but then you look at it and you're like, I don't know, and you pick some. It's stuff that got like 3 out of 5 in GamePro or whatever.
Would it be fair to say that you find it mid?
Yeah, it's heavily mid. Like it has some great. It has bangers from Nintendo, definitely. It has the rare hidden bop, but most of it is just it's just elevator music, and I'm
sure.
It's not as appealing.
I'm way more excited about the Game Boy Advance offerings.
It is interesting to be able to pop it. Like I mentioned Eliminator Boat Duel because I was like, I'd never played it because it looked like trash, and so I'm like, this is the first time I'm going to play it, and I played it, and I had fun for about 8 minutes. I was like, this is actually not, this sucks now. Like, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. This is not, okay, maybe I was wrong about this. Oh, no, this really just kind of sucks. Oh, shit. The novelty of it wore off awfully fast. Sure. Which on a $60 video game back in the day
I would love to see NSO basically be, instead of like having each system separately is fine. I do kind of wish I could just be shown like an entire library. I know that's not necessarily possible, but the entire library and pick what I want to download out of it.
Yeah, that'd be nice too.
To have on my system instead of constantly updating and always having to have all those games. Just from a space constraint.
And then let's actually just quickly talk about the quick points here. We got a couple things. Good old PD Molyneux talking about that, basically just running his mouth about that he's he's invented a thing that nobody has ever thought of before.
Yeah, I put a crank on my controller this time.
We're gonna make fun of it whenever it happens.
We sure are.
But more power to him. Maybe he has indeed invented a thing that nobody has ever thought of before.
The problem is we all know his reputation. That's kind of the problem when you say stuff like that. If he had no reputation, we'd all just be like, okay, whatever, and maybe that would be neat and true later.
Someone was talking about in the comments to this video. Someone was talking about recently watching I think it was talking about like the original Fable.
Oh yeah.
And seeing the reactions to it, when Peter Molyneux was still considered to be like this sort of auteur, and everyone was like, "Oh man, what is he gonna come out? This is gonna be amazing."
I feel like that's got to be hard having that kind of reputation, because a lot of people. Okay, we have auteurs that people like basically praise no matter what they make, and they make high quality stuff.
Yeah.
Like you get known for making a certain thing, maybe.
We're still just in gaming?
We're just talking in gaming.
Great, okay.
I'm afraid of whatever.
That's fine.
Or if not high quality stuff, then at least you sort of know what you're getting.
You know what you're getting, and their reputation is so good that they're always given a high budget, so they never really make anything totally mediocre or whatever, or at least not a flop. Most people have like maybe one really good idea, maybe two, and then that's it.
It's like saying everybody has a novel in them kind of idea. It's like, yeah, you might, but you might only just have the one. And it might just be a novella.
And I feel like that's gotta suck, like if you come up with like a really cool, fantastic idea, and then you're like, I don't know what to do now. And everyone's like, what are they gonna do now? And
it's the sophomore album problem.
I kind of feel a little bad for Maddie Thorson because
like
of that.
A one-hit wonder.
Because Maddie made Towerfall, right? And it was like, that was this astounding game. And I'm sure the pressure was on to be like, what's the next thing you want to do? And then Celeste came out, and that was fucking blockbuster for an indie game to just be this amazing thing.
Very good.
And I'm like, so is it Earthrise?
Earthblade.
Earthblade is the next one coming out, and I'm like, that's gotta be really rough that you're like, the next thing I have to make has to feel as good as Celeste to people.
Yeah.
And it's not just a thing of like, well, the whole studio, so it's like, you're kind of just one person at the head of that then. You're one person that's like, I know there's other people probably working on it, but it's like, you're kind of just the figurehead of that. And if you were insulated by an entire company in front of you, that's one thing, but to be the face of it, I hope it's great.
I will say, did Maddie post it, or was it just like a Celeste Mastodon account?
Oh no, it was Maddie.
Was Maddie posting brainstorming notes for Celeste 2, and on a sticky note, it's like, Celeste 2, ? No. And then there's like another post that was like, maybe? JK. Unless.
Yeah.
And like there were just several different posts, and I think there was like another one that said yes, and then it was crumpled up. Like,
and then laid out again, then torn apart, then taped back together, and it's like, no, they're...
Yeah. It's very, very, very real brainstorming.
And like I actually had a fair amount of sympathy or empathy, at least, for Peter Molyneux, in the sense that for a while there, he seemed like a person who was very, he had sort of strong visions and stuff, and he also did a thing which some creative types do, especially in the video game industry. Had a habit of speculating in public about things. And so people would ask him questions about like, what's going to be in this game, and he would talk about the things that he had ideas for in the game.
Right.
And people took that as, this is going to be in the game. It was sort of the No Man's Sky problem. I forget what his name is, but he also had that problem.
Yeah.
And And so I had some sympathy for Peter Molyneux, that he was just like, he didn't quite get, didn't have that thing of, he needed somebody to tell him not to do that stuff in public. But over the years, it's become clear that there's a lot, like, a lot of the stuff is definitely, like, it's not just him over-promising or whatever. It's
just
like
outright blue sky.
It's just like legitimately stupid. I think his last thing was like an NFT game.
I think it's very, very exciting to
Sean Murray was No Man's Sky.
To brainstorm with other people, especially when you have somebody's attention, because it's just a thing you want to talk about and it's fun. But because of stories like Peter Molyneux, I hold back on doing anything in front of the internet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, you know what? If I do something cool, then you can have the cool thing. I'm not going to talk about the cool thing that I'm thinking about doing, because who knows if I even have the time.
And I think we're probably guilty of doing that sometimes too. You get excited. You get excited about something, but sometimes you talk about things that you wish or that you hope will happen.
Yeah, that's also not necessarily
and then the audience will take it as something that has happened or that is guaranteed to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas you were like, I hope this will happen, but we're sort of working on it.
And in that same
cool,
In that same vein, I want to say to our audience, it's like, just because we don't tell you everything that goes on every day in the moon base, it's not that we don't love you. But it's just that we have to have some secrets from each other.
Sometimes
and also, and the inclination now, and there's that thing where it's like when you do that, and then you get bitten by that because whatever the thing you were thinking about doesn't come to pass.
Yep.
It does make you less inclined to be open in public about stuff.
I just don't want to disappoint people.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So
I don't like disappointing
that's the push and pull of it, right? If when people sort of misinterpret things and you get it, it's like the downside of that for the public is that you don't get the inside scoop of what we're thinking about.
Well, and sometimes, and I'll see somebody suggest something several times, like maybe we should use this, or we should try this, or have we thought about this? And I never answer those questions because. And I don't want people to stop necessarily suggesting those things, because you do sometimes get suggestions where you're like, oh, I hadn't actually thought about that.
Sure, absolutely.
But sometimes I'll see a person reiterate the same suggestion on like every video, and I'm just like, I can't answer that question, because if I answer it, it sounds like we will definitely do a thing.
It's confirmation, yeah.
But it's not like we haven't explored that idea or we're not thinking about it. But also, sometimes I don't want to tell people why we're not doing a thing, because I don't want to get into an argument with them when I already have to do those arguments in our own meetings with the people who actually make those decisions. I don't want to make arguments with people who have no bearing on those decisions.
Yeah, you're right.
I just don't care enough to get into that.
Yeah, we're all being real here today.
And that's not to say every single person's going to like start having an argument with me about the thing. It's just
we don't know.
I open myself up to that, and I just don't have time.
A new thing. Yeah.
Speaking of announced things that might or may not happen, I guess. Well, this definitely did happen. It's the 30th anniversary of
Nipponichi.
of famous Japanese video game company's mascot that is blue and super cool.
Oh, is he fast?
I don't actually know.
No, he's dangerous though.
He is very dangerous.
I like danger.
I believe explosive.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah.
Nobody told you it was explosive?
Yeah.
Prinnies
blow up.
Why is this not the internet comments I'm getting? Why are you guys not telling me about the characters that explode?
They also have like little wooden legs for some reason.
Because they're constructs, I thought, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I did have a PS4 background of the pretties because I think they're cute.
And they say dude, which is something that Sonic says too. So anyway, it is Nipponichi Software's 30th anniversary, and why that is significant is on their.
They can't be in the 30 under 30 list anymore.
Yeah.
Somewhere on their website. Where does it have it? Don't know.
Oh, we've got message, history, anniversary title, event, and special.
Is it anniversary title? Somewhere on their web. Yeah, here it is. They're like, this is cool, and then there's going to be 3 other things, and everyone's like, wait, what? You never said there was going to be 3 things released this year.
Yeah.
I hope it's more exciting than when they did the Year of Persona, because the Year of Persona was like, hey, we're going to do like a thing every month, and some of those things were like, in select towns, buy cupcakes or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
Pop-up cafe in the middle of fucking
that
nowhere.
makes your list a little less interesting, but maybe there's only 3, so they could be higher quality, more interesting things.
So it's a visual novel collection for Hayatigami 1, 2, and 3, which is something they must have made sometime. That we know this company for Disgaea is what we know them for.
Yes, giant numbers, tactics games usually, right?
On Nintendo Life, they say, obviously we don't know for sure what they're doing, but we can't help but notice that Disgaea 2 and 3 is a gap in the Twitch catalog at the moment.
I mean, that makes for a possibility. Definitely.
So anyway.
Get Disgaea 2 Royale.
Yeah.
I assume that they'll have the penguin in them.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I guess they put it in a lot of things, though, so that may not narrow it down.
The new Mario Kart 8 expansion, the Booster Course Pass Wave 5, includes a bunch of new stuff, and including a new driver, or a couple of new drivers, but specifically Kamek from Super Mario World 2 originally, but he's shown up in other stuff.
Yeah.
The little magical Koopa.
Was he not in Mario World 1?
No.
Oh.
There were little Koopa
Magic Koopas is
Yeah,
what
there
they
were
call
magic.
them.
There were magic Koopas that are basically Kamek.
Yes.
Kamek is a magic Koopa, but he's a special one.
He was named
He gets
in
named.
in Yoshi's Island. Yeah.
Like if I you can put on headphones, listen to this, but it's basically, so if you played Yoshi's Island, the noise that his horn makes.
I'm not hearing any sound from that.
How about I turn it up so that you can actually hear it?
There we go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
The sound that his horn makes might be a particularly emotional sound for you to hear. And I was thinking, I kind of want I want there to be like a pack of
Custom horns
or maybe just a bunch of a pack of like villains that have like, there's a whole, I was thinking about villains in especially like early video game history that have like a very distinctive like small like either music cue
like a
or
cry
sound cue
or something, yeah.
like Kefka's laugh from Final Fantasy VI. That is always like that thing where you're just like, no, damn it. The crying Mario horn. Yeah, crying baby Mario horn.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I had a hard time playing that game.
Sinistar. Run! Run!
I live.
Yeah,
If we put Sonic in there, can it be the drowning music?
I mean,
yeah.
Isn't Sonic in Mario Kart?
Nah, he's got his own card game.
Yeah, that's fair.
So-
I thought they put him in this one. I guess
No,
not.
I think it's been mostly, like, it's all been Nintendo.
The other thing about Booster Course Pass Wave 5 is you can race Vancouver.
Ooh.
Yeah, because the Los Angeles track's in there and the Vancouver track's in there, both from Mario Kart Tour.
Right, yeah.
We made that little video about
We
it.
have a fun video about that. You
Yeah.
can find that over at youtube.com/loadingreadyrun.
I was surprised because I saw the Los Angeles one show up and I'm like, yeah, they would certainly put in, we're not going to ever see oh my God, the Vancouver track's in here. Like, I was all excited. I'm like, I've never played it, but I kind of want to go do it now. So, yeah.
I know. The Echo the Dolphin death scream.
Wow. That's...
Yeah.
I didn't even play that game a lot.
It's interesting the way there are like there's like certain sound, it's just a couple of notes, but it becomes so like deeply embedded in your consciousness.
Yeah.
Boop, 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 boop.
What else we got?
What else have we got? We actually, we dealt with most of the stories I talked about.
Niantic.
Yeah.
I skipped over this story the moment I saw the word sexist.
Yeah. This is one of those, like, not surprising, but also...
Didn't want to hear about this.
Tiring.
You don't want to hear about it. And it's something about it being Niantic, like, which is sort of like such a, like, kind of wholesome style of company.
Well, because Pokemon is very heavily associated with it now.
Yeah. So anyway, what this is about, former employees of Niantic are suing the company for alleged gender discrimination and sexism that systematically devalues the work of women and women of color. There's currently a single person who is suing them, but they are seeking a class action lawsuit.
And you wouldn't do that unless you thought there was a lot more people. Impacted by Niantic's
boys club kind of
I hate to let you know this, but if there's one person who's being
harassed,
having harassment placed at them for being a woman or a person of color, chances are good there's more than one.
Yeah. Actually, I guess they don't say particularly it is harassment. It is discrimination. Yeah. It's
regardless, it's generally more, it's not a thing you typically do towards one person only.
Yeah.
Like
a person does that towards groups of people.
The main piece of this was that, or one of the major parts of this is that it was one of the situations where this person had basically found out that a male colleague who had been hired later and was lower had a lower position was being paid more.
Yeah.
Why individual negotiations with the company isn't such a great idea sometimes.
Mm-hmm. That's also why you should talk to your
personal relationship,
Yeah, you'd think that maybe chasing like a company when it gets to this size, be like, hey, what we might want to do is just try to standardize all this so we don't get into trouble anymore. Maybe we need to have grids. Maybe we need to encourage everyone to just form a union at that point. There's a lot of people there. Though it would be harder for Niantic to lay off 230 people after NBA All World went under.
Yeah, but Niantic is a Japanese company, by the way. So this is in Japan, I believe.
Is it?
I thought they were.
I thought Niantic was American.
Yeah, maybe they are.
They're based in North Carolina or something.
Oh, they are. For some reason, I thought they were.
They do a lot of work with Japanese companies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but for some reason, I thought
yeah.
Maybe not.
The other thing that I found particularly frustrating, or not frustrating, but ironic about this is that they have, like, they were sort of like from ostensibly sort of from the outside,
mm-hmm.
They were doing things sort of right in the sense that they had it's like the company's women's group called the Wolf Pack, mm-hmm. which is
cool,
kind of awesome, but probably not the right style to be going for. Anyway, they put out a survey. So, the fact that the company had a women's group is, like, positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they put out a survey, asking about Niantic's culture, and a ton of stuff came back saying that there was sexist work culture, unequal pay, blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, maybe don't talk about in the presentation that you're going to give to everybody, women's group. Nice. So it's like, we made we have a women's group, so we're, being really supportive.
We're reaching out to all the women to find out what they want to know.
They found out about...
they found out about the women's group.
Yeah, they didn't. It turns out the conclusions from the women's group were not the ones that they were hoping for, and so they were like, maybe don't talk about it.
Yeah, stop asking, too, because this chief marketing officer did say to them, stop hosting surveys.
Yeah.
That's
We found out stuff we didn't want to find out.
So
Don't tell anyone.
stop asking. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll solve everything.
Yeah. It's amazing. After we stopped doing surveys, the general.
We stopped finding out that people thought things.
Yeah, we haven't got any more information about there being discrimination. So
we took out the
it's amazing.
suggestion box, and suddenly all the suggestions went away.
Yeah. So it's great. Obviously, we're doing something right. Anyway, grumble. We talked about the boys' characters showing up in Call of Duty. Speaking of Call of Duty, Graham mentioned it in the after show. That I'm presumably they don't get their superpowers.
Yeah,
I would
Goku
guess
with a gun kind of idea.
But I do kind of love the idea that it's like, hey, that's not fair.
So they've been isekai'd to another world. They don't get their superpowers in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to fight war perpetually. They don't even get to have like fun war like in Fortnite.
That's not very good isekai.
War's the funnest in Fortnite. But yeah, it's no, you have to go to the gloomy world of Call of Duty and probably, I'm gonna guess, fight World War II over and over. Is that what Call of Duty still is?
Some of Call of Duty.
Okay.
I don't know if all of Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Right. That's the other thing that I always forget is that Niantic used to be part of Google.
They should try making a Call of Duty.
They got spun out from Google.
Huh. That is really weird to think. Jesus.
Boop, 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 boop. And finally, any criticisms of Tears of the Kingdom saying that it's too close or that it's like
Clearly a ripoff
of Elden Ring or inspired by Elden Ring is categorically untrue because according to the Tears of the Kingdom developers, they were too busy making Zelda to play Elden Ring.
Well, like I want to point out, Elden Ring came out in like I want to say February of 2022, but it came out in 2022, early 2022. Tears of the Kingdom came out this year.
Yeah.
And according to a lot of articles, has been spending the last year in polish. So even if they played the game when it came out, I'm not sure. I think most of your core ideas are already in the game at that point.
Yep.
And also, like, Breath of the Wild came out before Elden Ring.
Yes.
So if there's...
Well, because I think if I remember right, it was stated that devs who were making Elden Ring had taken some inspiration from Breath of the Wild.
Sure.
Or people thought that. So, like, what we're looking for here is a nice, cool circle of Breath of the Wild came out, then Elden Ring came out, and then Tears of the Kingdom came out.
But there's no circle
So they
there.
say, yeah. I do like the it's one of these, like, interviews that come from, it's through a translator. But when asked if the team was inspired by Elden Ring, he responded with the surprising Fujibayashi said, sorry, we didn't really have a chance to play the game. We were too occupied with the development of Tears of the Kingdom, which resulted in us not really being able to play games. We did hear about it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume it would be really weird if they said, what game are you talking about? I haven't heard about it.
Yeah.
Like, it seems a little weird.
I feel like that's one of those things, like, I don't know, you're like a struggling actor, and you get like a bit part in a TV show, and you're like, hey, I was on Game of Thrones, and someone's like, oh, really? I mean, I haven't got a chance to watch that show, but I'm sure you're really good in it.
Yeah, I've heard about that show, so I guess you're really good. So there's kind of a few things we can break down here. One, the fact that Fujibayashi's the director.
Yeah. Also, I just like.
Oh yeah.
Even if we had time to play the games, we wouldn't reuse ideas from them.
Which I'm sure.
That was Sayonuma.
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's Fujibayashi.
Fujibayashi says that up there.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Aonuma says, I would never try to put the ideas of others in my game. I'm too proud for that. I was looking for original ideas. It's like, okay, fair.
That's why he went straight to Peter Molyneux.
Exactly. There is this. There's a couple things where it's like we wouldn't have had time to play the game. You're speaking for a large development team that may have had other time to be able to do things. When the game came out in 2022, they might have been like, okay, I am actually going to go play the game now. But like you say, it's already going to be
like, it's just at that point that their game's
you're
5
locked
years
in.
into
You know what you're
development.
doing.
I don't think
So to say that we didn't have time to play the game, it's like, well, you're speaking for maybe a few hundred people that maybe you can't do that. Maybe there's a few people on the team who did. And so what you're saying is,
you got time to Elden Ring, you got time to program.
So we could make an assumption that what he's saying is that we as a company do look at other games, like we do play other games for other systems because we want to also experience other ideas and have, and have that kind of flow to be like, oh, that's a really cool idea, but what if you did this? We could put that, but twisted or whatever, into this other game. So we as a company didn't have time to engage with Elden Ring because we were very busy. Like we as a development team within Nintendo didn't have time to engage with Elden Ring because we wouldn't. But normally we would probably play a game like that to see what's going on with it. Especially if it's in a similar type of game to what we're developing. You could see that. But what I think is also interesting though is if both games are being developed at the same time, there's nothing to say that FromSoft and Nintendo don't have employees that actually do talk to each other.
Well, no, they probably do.
You go out if you're in the same area, you might go out and have, because it's like freaking like Microsoft and Nintendo of America. Like people will meet at the bar, like they'll just kind of shit on, what are you working on? I'm working on this, but I can't really tell you about it. I'm like, I'm working on this, but I can't really tell you about it. I'm like, great, friend EA. Like that's happening.
Sure.
And there's reasons to believe that there might be a little bit of that going on.
But let me also tell you about human behavior. The idea that you watch things, you forget about things, or you hear about a thing and then you don't really think about it. You don't actively do the thing, but it's in the background, it's subconscious, and then like 2 weeks later, you're staring up at a wall and you're like, ooh, here's a thing I've never thought about before, even though you totally have, because that's just the world we work in. Yeah.
So and that's a lot of, again, supposition, which is, I keep saying that speculation sucks and we don't want to do that, but it's like, but the industry talks to each other too. So there could be opportunities for that kind of stuff to be there, but nothing where it's just like, we played the finished game and then we went back for a year and redid the entire goddamn game so it would actually be more like Elden Ring, because that's clearly the game of the year. Like,
I remember, because I've just recently been playing Breath of the Wild, of course, and I haven't played Elden Ring, but there's definitely a few parts in Breath of the Wild where I was like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good, I'm pretty tough, and then a guy would just come over and just bam, one shot me, and I'm like, what is this, Elden Ring?
Yeah. Well, there's more of those type of guys now in Tears of the Kingdom too. So.
Yeah, Mr. Lion.
Oh God.
So there's definitely the, by which I mean the idea of the big scary combat is not something that Elden Ring, well, certainly not something that Elden Ring invented.
My understanding of the comparison to Elden Ring was for specifically the depths and stuff too.
The underground.
And I have to say, I kind of wonder if Nintendo's going to get obsessed with having an underground or a basement in every game, because they're doing it in Pikmin 4 as well. And I'm just like, is every game going to have a scary, dark underground now?
To be fair, like the original Zelda was largely was a ton of caves and stuff.
There were dungeons you walked underground to that. That's true.
Yeah, but they're not quite the same.
Pikmin 2 had underground.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, like
I didn't play Pikmin 2.
I think you sat with me on one stream where we did go underground in a later level.
Oh, maybe. That was so long ago.
Yeah, and but the underground levels were like very like, they were puzzles more than anything else. They were like, you go into this thing and you fall through the hole, and then when you're underground, you're like, I need to try to make all this like weird contraptions and shit that are down here work. Very much like in Mario 64, where it's like, I'm gonna go fight a boss, and it's like, it's just a contraption level. It's not like an actual level.
I mean, I'll explore that in like September.
Yeah.
The second level of Super Mario Brothers is the one where you go underground.
That's true too.
Maybe they've just been obsessed with undergroundness.
It's something fun, right? About like you want to go under the ground and see what's under there. I mean, I don't.
I mean, not in real life.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of being stuck underground.
No.
Every time I go,
Nope.
I keep trying to not go underground in Tears of the Kingdom, and then a thing will happen, and I'm like, okay, well, I have to go underground, and then I do a bit there, and I'm like, I don't want to be down here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the sky.
I like the sky. Wish there was a little bit more in it. Are we done with the story?
I believe so. Yes.
There was the coming up about the Final Fantasy 16.
Yes.
I can't remember.
It's getting a musical. So if you don't have a PS5, you can watch the musical done by the all-female troupe Takarazuka Review. They are very famous, and they do this all the time.
Can you pause the musical and have it like give you the
the active time?
The active time info so that you can tell what's going on.
And I've been to a gender swap musical in Japan before, and we were not allowed to pause anything.
I was gonna say
that was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I've been to a couple of like foreign language operas.
Yeah.
And the ability to just be like, pause. Who is that guy?
Yeah. Why is he happy?
Why is he singing about this right now? Would be super useful.
He sounds great. Whatever's going on.
You had a video. Do they put their stuff online?
They do. They've got.
Can I watch it somewhere?
They have a YouTube channel.
YouTube? I'm gonna find that.
I was disappointed in that when I went to their YouTube channel and I was hoping to get like a clip of, I mean, presumably Final Fantasy 16 they haven't done yet, but I was thinking maybe they'd done like other Final Fantasy games or other video game things. I didn't see stuff immediately, but they have a YouTube channel, but it's all in Japanese, so I didn't quite know what was going on it.
Oh, that's fine.
I just chose one that looked visually interesting.
You should have put the Ace Attorney one up. That would have been very confusing for people who were trying to.
There's like I know there's a scene with a whole bunch of Edgeworths. There's like an entire crowd of them doing a dance number.
Objection.
I'm gonna have to go look that up.
Yeah.
That's basically the only reason I wanted to bring it up. I just wanted to know if I could find their stuff and watch it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like full things, but there's certainly clips. But they've got to have more stuff around there somewhere. Yeah.
Because
is all their
way, I think I'd be willing to pay a subscription fee for that one.
Is all their stuff like original compositions as well? Like they take a particular topic or a particular thing and create a musical about it?
Yeah, I've never seen anyone else ever do the work or promote the works before they do it. So I think they have a very high concentration on, even if they're taking an already developed work from somewhere, that they are making their version of it. That I'm sure that the Ace Attorney one goes through like the first few cases in the first game kind of idea, and
probably
that would be the thing you would do. You take the story from that, but it's like, we want to represent it with music and lights and dancing.
Like in a lot of musicals, you're re-experiencing the story in maybe like a different light or a different way, but the story itself typically maintains, right?
Yeah. They have done original works though as well.
Yeah.
But
I mean, mostly what I know about them is what I've seen through parody of anime.
Yeah.
It'd be great to do Final Fantasy 15, because Final Fantasy 15 is famously 4 guys, also famously traveling around in a car, which is also famously hilarious to do on stage. Car driving on stage is always highly problematic.
They would have a car on stage. They would totally do it. It would be something on wires too, I'm sure, that would kind of just glide them around where they need to go.
Or maybe they could do it Starlight Express style and be on roller skates.
That sounds incredibly dangerous. Yeah.
It was.
A lot of injuries, I understand. Yeah. We're a train. Yeah, sure.
Anyway. So, yeah, I think that's all the news for today in terms of video game news. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. If you haven't watched the episode of ChillPoint that came out this week, you should do that. It is up on our YouTube channel.
It's over 20 minutes long.
youtube.com/LRRVG. It's over 20 minutes long.
It's like 21 and a half minutes or something.
Is half of that post credits?
Well, half of it is post credits and some fun outtakes.
Ooh, fun outtakes.
There were some fun outtakes, and I left them.
Great.
And I specifically like the close up of Graham making weird face and doing some sort of mouth noises.
Yeah.
Hey, that's just Graham's face, okay?
He doesn't always do it to a funny degree, though.
Just because his face is weird looking doesn't mean he's doing a weird face.
Definitely fun. A couple outtakes of Beach messing up some words.
Mm.
Firm employees. What was the other one?
Yeah, firm employee rights.
Yeah.
You said
I
firm
like it when I
employee
get
rights.
outtakes. Sometimes you guys are just like really good, and there's like no real outtake because it's just we just started over. Like there's nothing.
Yeah.
That's always the worst. It's always the worst. Like sometimes that happens. You see like, you know, there'll be like a thing on YouTube that'll be like outtakes from, you know, whatever this movie.
Right.
And there'll be like two characters or two actors, and like one of them is the kind of person who like when they mess up they'll go like,
yeah.
and the other one will just be like,
Yeah.
okay. Like some people just don't mess up in a funny way.
It's true, yeah. They just kind of like shut down.
Anyway.
Which, you know, fair.
Yeah, sometimes you're competent and that's not fun for anybody. It's true.
Tex and I would probably expect that we're going to probably shout out kind.social as the Mastodon server to join if you don't know which one to join. We're probably going to shout that out for the next few weeks here and there. So just kind of prep yourself for that. Wait for the PPR.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I do like the outtakes that you see occasionally where the actors just start having a different conversation. Like they kind of just try to go throughout the rest of the scene.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We will talk to all y'all later.
Hit up that Patreon.
Bye.
Bye.